Welcome to the Fatherhood Unity Month. My name is Calvin Mann, president and founder of Good Fathers Only and Encourage Me I'm Young. Today's guest is Pete Rome. Pete has been a friend, a health advisor. We've grown this relationship, Brother Pete, and I would like for you to tell a few people about your agency, who and where you're from, and what you do.
Okay, thanks, Calvin. I appreciate you giving me some time just to talk a little bit about health and wellness and just give you a little bit of background, my overview here. So mention my name's Pete Rome. Grew up in Oxford, Ohio, and have a sports background, sales and marketing background, but attended Miami University on a scholarship to play football and run track. Was recognized as a world-class sprinter. Was fortunate to have an opportunity to play on 3 championship teams, ranked 15th, 12th, and 10th in the country. So was really thankful for that. Was actually drafted by Cincinnati Bengals and bounced around for a while, and just have a real true passion for overall health and wellness, but especially men's health. And a reason for that is a lot of my teammates over the years just kind of let themselves go. So I just wanted to really kind of get back and see how I could be a resource to help them and help men take responsibility for their health. And I call it a health journey. It just doesn't happen overnight, but how do you really make some lifestyle changes to really monitor your health journey? And the one thing, I know there's a lot going on in our country right now, and a couple things that are also happening. There's a silent issue that oftentimes we don't talk about, and that's men's health. It's a silent crisis that takes place in our city. And what that crisis is that men live sicker and they die younger than women. And especially in our communities. African-American males that are born around the year 2004 have a life expectancy of 69 years compared to 76 for white males. Men in our communities suffer from diabetes, heart disease, hypertension, and cancer, more chronic diseases than any other race. And let me just share some of those stats with you.
Go ahead.
Out of all the racial and ethnic groups, African Americans, we have the highest mortality rate for cancers combined, and for the most significant cancers, the death rates for all major causes and chronic diseases higher for African Americans than whites, which contributes to a lower life expectancy. African American men are 0.4 times likely to have new cases of lung cancer, prostate cancer compared to white men. African American men are 2.4 times likely to die from prostate cancer compared to white men.
All right, go ahead, Pete.
Okay, I was talking about heart disease continues to be a leading killer throughout, our communities. African American men are 30% more likely to die from heart disease. 60% of African American adults are more likely to have a stroke than white adults. 60% of African American men are likely to die from that stroke. African Americans are less likely to have cholesterol levels checked. 50% of men, 59 African American men have
penis. We had another one of them jerks. Go ahead. I can delete that. Start again.
Okay. There's over 18 million Americans have diabetes, and we're expecting that to become the 5th deadliest disease, and that continues to really deal a major blow to our communities. So overall is that we need to just look for ways to take responsibility for our health journey, At age 50, what we find is men, we start to see some significant changes in our bodies. So our bodies start to break down. So we have a tendency as African American men, Black men, to really start to ignore those issues. And that's when problems and complications take place. So what we need to do now is start to look at, what are some lifestyle changes that we need to make, as we continue to grow older. Calvin, I know you sent out a survey there, and I'd like everyone to take a look at that survey sometime. And the survey goes back and compares, how do you take care of your car? When you see the engine light go on, generally you're going to do something about it. If your oil is low, the light comes on, you do something about it. We need to do the same thing with our health. So with that survey, it's going to give you an opportunity to really compare, how do you take care of yourself compared to your car? And if your score is a lot higher taking care of your car, you need to really start making some lifestyle changes. So just with that discussion, Calvin, we start to look at, what are you doing to make some changes right now? What are we doing, as men, as African American men? We'd like for people to maybe just start to share some of those things.
Well, me and you, we're always having that conversation, right? You
always,
right? You're always calling, you're checking to make sure I'm having a certain amount of vegetables, a certain amount of food, right? You're asking about the rest. You're always asking about health, right? You've made
right.
Sure since we met and had that conversation, you have been a very important piece to my thought process and making sure that I'm doing the right things around food. I'd really like to go ahead.
And I think the one thing that question that we need to ask, to talk about, is how conscious are you of your health? And we had that conversation before, but now you've kind of moved it to a new level. So talk about those things. How conscious are you of your health, and what are you doing to stay in shape, and what impact has that had on your life, becoming more conscious of that?
Well, okay, so like I said about, one of the things we discussed, you and I discussed before, I take off, was the first thing I told you is I kind of like gave up the soul food because the soul food was snatching souls. I was very, very concerned as a child of a diabetic parent.
Mm-hmm.
As a young man, like there were certain things and certain foods that I wouldn't eat, right? Because I knew, what the repercussions were, and so although I had, was big, it was what I was doing that allowed me to get big like that, right? And so I said, well, a couple of years ago, I said, let me go to the doctor, right? Let me go get all the information and check. And when I got there, it was, the first time she was like, here go these 5 pills. And I was like, Doc, I don't do pills.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm not doing pills. Too many people knew, too many people I've seen too many people go away with pills. There's a question in the audience as we're talking. The question was, do you think if men knew about the connection between health and sexual wellness, they may take it more serious?
Absolutely. I think one of our issues is education. How do you become more educated about chronic diseases and how it affects your life? And, that's one of our goals, is to look for ways to help educate our community in terms of chronic diseases and what we need to do to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And there's a number of ways that we want to do that through seminars. As I mentioned before, we have a class that we teach on diabetes, preventing diabetes. diet and nutrition. So the more we can educate ourselves, about chronic diseases and how they affect our body and our lifestyle, it certainly helps.
So exactly. So back to the right. So the story evolved. So now she wants me to take these 3, 4. So I'm in the room negotiating with the doctor, Pete. I'm telling her, no, I'm not taking this many pills. I'm just not, right? So we're negotiating. She said, okay, I want you to take these 4. Then she go plus a water pill, right? So, I kind of laugh about it. She said, your blood pressure is a little high. You need the water pill for this. And we want to do, so she started giving me all these things. I said, Doc, you got 30 days. 30 days later, I walked back in there, 11 pounds lighter, right off the bat.
Good for you.
Immediately she says, what did you do? What about the medicine? Now I'm reduced to 2 medicines and the water pill, right? One of the medicines was the aspirin, which I take still today, which is an aspirin, because when you're over 50, you should include an aspirin in your heart health regimen, right? So other than that, it's vitamins, right? So, and I'm very inconsistent with the aspirin, to be honest with you. So after that, another 30 days, I come back, she want to do blood work. January roll around, she tell me, you need to take this. Your cholesterol came in a little high. I want you to take this. I forget the name of the pill, right? It's been on TV the whole night. So I said, really? She was like, yeah. I said, okay. All right, doc, this is it. You got 30 days, right? Now I done dropped over 20 pounds, right? And so now she like, okay, well, whatever you're doing. I said, well, really, was throwing away the meat wasn't hard for me, right? The snacks and the sugar, that really wasn't hard for me. It was the walking and the really loving myself more. Part of my weight gain was self-stress. Eating at the wrong time. So I, don't eat after 7, the whole 9. My energy peaks start going up, weight going down, right? I'm still doing my push-ups. So she give me this pill, man, I take this pill. And when I took the pill, Pete, I was like, oh my God. Like, it wasn't that I even noticed it. It's just that I didn't catch on to it. But the day I took that pill in the morning, something wasn't right. So now I'm telling my wife, I'm saying, oh, I feel down, right? I got tears in my eyes. I'm beating myself up. Like I'm sinking as the day go on. And I'm talking about I done climbed in the bed and curled up like a newborn. I'm like, what is wrong? Like, I don't understand. I was hopeless the whole night. And then just about 11 o'clock, it clicked. It was that pill. So I didn't take the pill no more. Went back, she did the blood work, right? We upped the green vegetables. We upped the veggies, the whole 9, push-ups. I stayed the course, plenty of water. When I go back, she cut me loose. She said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, right? You're good. My blood pressure had dropped after the first month. I think my blood pressure was only up because I was scared to go into the doctor's office because I ain't never had blood pressure as an issue. But being a big guy and active, part of that process was I didn't want those pills. I saw my mom, like a lot of people don't understand about these pills. I saw my mom, she had a case with every date on it. Me and my brothers and sisters, we each had a date. She had a pill, right? And it was a morning shift and an afternoon shift in this case. And it's 6 or 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's all these pills in each square. And it's all for food, right? So, no, I didn't want that. I didn't want that. So that's my story and why I've taken better care of myself. I know physically it doesn't appear, but as I'm changing, now I'm getting ready to up the gym membership. I'm about to bring sexy all the way back. But my question to you is, What are, go ahead.
Well, I'm just kind of building on your story there, and similar challenges for me was that my youngest daughter, her last year in college, really kind of set up a challenge, and said, "Hey, Dad, I've heard all these stories, about you as an athlete. I want to see it." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "I want to see it. Let's go. We're gonna go out and run." And I really hadn't been working out, and it was a challenge. She says, "Come on, let's go." And we took off running up the hills and down the hills. And she said, "I'm going to be your coach. And you're going to start training, changing diet, and you're going to compete in the Senior Olympics. At one time, you may have had an opportunity to go to the Olympics, but you're going to compete in the Senior Olympics." And that kind of started the whole process of eating more fruits and vegetables, working out, staying hydrated, working on getting more sleep. And, oftentimes it just takes, a push, a young person to get you out there to start making some lifestyle changes. And along with that, that started the process. So from there, was able to really just start to share that information. In the first year competing, I struggled, and I started working with a nutritionist, a good friend of mine, and just had me taking all fruits and vegetables in a capsule. If I couldn't eat enough of those, it filled in the gap. And, the first year I nearly just passed out coming across the finish line, but qualified in the next year. We just start getting better. We just start making more lifestyle changes, really conscious of what we're eating, trying to get enough sleep, making sure that we exercise. So, it just becomes a trend. And once that happens, it becomes part of your lifestyle. So commend you. You've done a great job. As we talked about, you've got a lifestyle now. And maybe it's just adding one little thing to that change that you're already making. I know you get up and you walk and, you work out. Well, maybe you add just something else to that.
Well,
But
that's the
that's
plan.
kind of my story.
That's the plan. So let me ask you this question, right? So how old are you, Pete?
66.
So you're 66, you run, you active, right? And so this brings me to the question about, right, from the question we got, right? Because my goal, right, now we're talking about health, the foods we eat. What are the best foods for that you may know that you could recommend for someone whose libido is low? Because we have a lot of men who won't admit, we have low libidos, we're not doing certain things. We like to, talk about it, but being about it is a different story. What are some of the vegetables you would recommend to increase a man's libido?
You start talking about the flow of blood. How do you get your blood to flow? The heart. So you look at fruits and vegetables that have an effect on your heart. The berries. When you start talking about heart, you talk about the blueberries, the blackberries. Those are fruits. And the green leaf spinach. Those are fruits and vegetables that help your heart. So that's where all the blood comes, starting to pump that blood through the heart.
So right. So there's that. That's the answer. Like, because alcohol, and certain other things that you may take in affects that. Yeah, you might have that hype for the night, but as your life goes on, your process, it can make you dependent just for your performance. Um, what's tell the people about your agency and what you guys do.
Well, we have a nonprofit which is called Urban Health Resource, and Urban Health Resource reaches out to the community, and we are the only recognized organization in the city that focuses on preventing diabetes. And, we teach that class to help folks make lifestyle changes. And, the program is over a year. Those first 16 weeks, you meet every week, and At one point we had, scholarship money. Now it's done through insurance, but we look at ways to make lifestyle changes. Class meets for an hour. We talk about, how do you shop in a grocery store? How do you read labels? How do you track what you eat? So those are, part of the program, but that's the organization.
So let's talk about that shopping and reading label, right? When you are, what are some of the things you should look out for when you're reading labels for men over 40, right? Because I'm stressing that age because that's the age group I'm around most of the time, other than with the young kids. So the young kids, they got built-in testosterone. So, so for the over 40, my mentors, the men, right, who, like, we don't want to admit certain things, but this health piece has really affected us as men. And
Right.
talk about the reading labels for those out there and the people who will get this process and want to share the practices of healthy reading labels.
Well, I think the one thing is that when you look at the grocery store, you have a list, but we talk about shopping on the outside, in the circle, because that's where you're going to find all your fruits and vegetables. And then, just when you are shopping and you're looking at labels, you want to look at the sodium content, you want to look at the saturated fat, and look at the sugars that are in there. So those are the key things that you start to look at: the amount of sugar, and then you start to stay away from processed foods. Those are things we want to try to do is, if it's in boxes and things like that, go back and look what's in your cabinet now. Everyone go home and take a look. What do you have in your cabinet right now, in your cabinets? If there's a lot of processed foods there, then now it's time to start to make some changes.
Awesome.
And the one thing you talk about, you just talked about, Calvin, was that kind of how we grew up, and then just as when I go back and look at my father and that generation and, all the guys that are my friends that I played ball with, I look at their fathers and they were all, as they were tough men. They were tough Black men. They took care of their families. They never missed a day of work. If they were sick, they didn't admit it, and they didn't go to the doctor. So as the next generation, those are things that we learned, and I call it big boys don't cry. And we don't. We go to work. We never miss a day. We're reluctant to go to the doctor because big boys we just don't cry. We just don't talk about it. We don't do it. So as a result of that, as we talked about before, we have a sicker community. So now that becomes a lifestyle change, just to get in and get checked. And I'm seeing it now with my generation, my guys, our boys. They go to the doctor, they're getting checked. They know the numbers, they know their blood pressure, they know their A1C levels. So those are all things that we encourage right now. And hopefully this next generation, that becomes part of the lifestyles. We teach our men and our women, how to take care of themselves. Because what happens in the household now is our wives end up taking care of us. They end up taking care of their husbands, their sons. They end up taking care of their brothers and their fathers. So now we need to make a concerted effort to step out there and get this next generation healthy, to teach them how to make lifestyle changes. As we do it right now, it becomes part of the lifestyle, not like our fathers. They were great men, but oftentimes they didn't go to the doctor. They didn't know their numbers. They had high blood pressure. Like you mentioned, they had a lot of the fats. So now it's the time to make those changes. I just call it big boys don't cry. Don't cry. And it's like, let's get rid of the ego. We all have the egos, and let's remove the egos and focus on our health and wellness.
Right. We're in that area right now, talking about healthy masculinity. The question is, a question came in like, what are some of those processed foods people should avoid?
Well, first is I try to stay away from the fast foods. You know, you're trying to stay away from fast foods, and then you've got all the, you got the chips and those types of things, and you know, um, and I like to have some, but it's like look at some healthy snacks. But you'll know the things that are in the boxes. You got the cookies and all the saturated fats, all those types of things. And what we'll do is I'll send you out, like we did before, just send you out some of the good fruits and vegetables that we can all take advantage of, and compare that to the processed foods.
Well, I got some good news for you, Pete. Some very good news. As of June 1st, I went straight veggies, fruits, vegetables, water. Last Friday or Thursday, it was one of them days it rained. The last time it rained, I ran my first half mile.
Good for you.
My body went into convulsions. I still, hey Peter, I come down the street. I got to share this with you, man. You my guy. I'm coming down the street, man, and I stopped in front of the house, and that's when my wind caught up to me. But I'm just standing in front of the house, and a neighbor walks by, and he's like, "Now you got to do it again." I said, "Man." I said, "No, brother." I had to tell him, Peter. I said, "Man, brother, this is the first time I ran in 7 years, right?" He said, "Oh, that's your max." He said, "That's good, 7 years, right?" And my neighbor say, 7 years is a long time. Right? So,
Well, Calvin, that's the same thing happened when Jordan. I was telling my daughter, so we're gonna start training for the Senior Olympics, and I'm like, doing what? She says, and oh, by the way, you're gonna run the 400 meters. I'm like, well, I've never run that in my life. Coming to camp, we always ran like a quarter, and I'm a
right,
sprinter.
right.
And I'm like, well, why the 400 meters? And she says, well, obviously, we just saw right there, you're not a sprinter anymore. So we're going to move you up in distance. And man, I tell you, starting to train for that, I literally thought I was going to die, fall out. So I know exactly how you feel. But the more you do it, the better you feel.
Yeah.
So, whether you're walking or running, but get out and do something. And what I encourage is pick an exercise, something that you're gonna do. I mean, you don't have to be like, me trying to compete in the Olympics and medals and all of that. Get something that you're gonna do. And whether that's working in your garden, it's walking around the block, something that you're gonna do. Because if not, you're not gonna do it.
Right.
So get a physical activity that you're gonna focus on and do.
Right. So I gotta, because we always keep it real. So Pete, so I ordered this book, the 51 muscle growing proteins, because as this COVID, changes, I'm getting me a membership, right? I got a few things in place, right? I'm loving me better. When we talk about the liver, the lungs, the prostate, like I know you touched on the spinach, but just certain foods that you could think of, right? Because I know we were having this discussion before, but the certain foods, besides the berries, for the blood flow, what is another good 2 foods that men should have in their daily repertoire, or if they're going to have it 3-4 times a week? What are 2 foods that we can add to our diets that will improve our health?
Well, the one thing I like to do is an apple. There's over, that saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Currently, based on the research, there's over probably 10,000 different antioxidants, phytonutrients, and stuff that we don't even know about, that are in apples there. So that's one I would, certainly focus on. If I can have an apple or a half an apple, something like that is great. As I mentioned before, for me is, that and spinach. Those are my two go-to. Because
Yeah.
you can always have some spinach, man.
Right. Right.
And there's something to that thing about Popeye. It's like,
Right.
as a kid, you watching Popeye, and there's
Yeah.
something to that.
Yeah. So, and that brings us to the foods to avoid. Welcome to the foods to avoid, Pete. And if you can share, besides like you said, we did the foods with the sugars. We did staying on the outside. We did the little snack conversation. But what are those foods we most definitely, besides you gave us the fast foods, what are two foods you say for sure not to ever eat again?
Well, the one thing I like to do is, as much as you can, stay away from the fried foods. For me, it's been getting rid of all the beef and the pork. And that's been 40 years. So I just really do not eat any beef or pork. But just take a look at the fried food. If you can get away from that fried food and look to have maybe a meatless Monday, where you're just doing all fruits and vegetables. And that's a start. So, kind of looking, Calvin, just as just getting away from that fried food, man.
Yeah, yeah. How do you feel about fasting?
Well, when you go back and look, I try to get everything done before 7 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then that gives your body a chance to fast. That's why they call it breakfast. You break the fast. So you eat at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then you're fasting another 12 hours. You don't eat again till breakfast, and that breaks the fast. So that becomes a fast for me, that 12-hour period right there.
Having that,
and then I go back to a healthy breakfast.
Yeah, having that discipline. Before I went to before I came to the veggies, um, I really focused on. Um, I started the fasting, right, and
Mhm.
so the fasting helped train me um, very well. So I focused on the fasting. First, it was I wouldn't eat until 5 o'clock.
Right.
So I did that, from 5 o'clock. Then I wouldn't eating again until the next 5 o'clock, right? And what that did for me, it regulated my mental strength, right? It gave me a certain amount of discipline. Now, I was thinking about this as coming into this conversation, like what are some of the things that I'm being disciplined about for me, right?
Right.
And so I share this with you that my method for me now is during this COVID, I didn't gain a pound, right? During the whole COVID time, I didn't gain a pound, right? And just as it broke, I gained 2 pounds, right? And then I went back. And then I started dropping again. And, getting on that scale, at least 3, 4 times a week, looking at where I'm at. Now my method is 1 pound at a time.
Yep.
Not giving it back. 1 pound at a time. So
Yeah.
by going to the vegetables, go ahead.
Yeah. Just not the pounds, but also it becomes important as inches. It may not be that we're losing pounds, but we could be losing inches, and that's important.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really my next phase. I really wanted to get active. I'm on the phone every day with my brother. We always talking. We call it National Walk Day, right? So we call each other,
Okay.
and you know what time it is, right? Today is National Walk Day, and so we are constantly supporting each other and talking to each other about our health because we grew up when my mom was diabetic, right? Like him, he don't even eat ice cream. Like I was telling you, he hasn't eaten ice cream since he was a little kid.
Let me ask you, Calvin, because I mean, you've made a lot of changes. You mentioned discipline, staying on it. How has that affected your relationship with your family and your friends? I mean, you've done a whole lot to make some change. How's that affected the relationship with your family and your friends?
Well, I mean, they see it. My attitude has changed. My son right away, recognized that a certain part of my attitude and that I had improved as a person. That's what he was saying. He's like, Dad, you have really gotten better. And I can attribute it to the fact that I started loving me better. As far as my family or, people, they like, they can crack jokes, but, they had the pills. I didn't. So, my family,
Mm-hmm.
we like to crack jokes on each other, have a ball. You know what I mean? When me and my brothers and sisters get together, it's a riot, right? So there's not a for me, it wasn't no change there. And my friends recognize it as well. And a couple of my friends are motivated because of it, right? And so, the point for having this conversation really is for the fathers to really see that we're supposed to make it to grandfathers. We're supposed to be able to see our grandchildren, right? We're supposed to, right? If God say we're gonna get at least 70, let's do whatever we can to get that 70. Let's take care of ourselves, and do whatever we can to get to that 70. Not dodging the hospital, on purpose, making sure we're not putting unnecessary alcohol in our bodies and things like that, because these are the things that ages. And for me, I just found that every day I wake up with a new attitude. Like I'm not looking at death, right? So I don't have that mindset. Like I can't think of the last time since I changed my diet or anything like that that I thought, man, I feel like I could die. You know what I mean? Like we all have thoughts, and I like to be real about my thoughts. And years ago, that was a thought for me. Like man, I could die tomorrow. You know what I mean? So I the people, my friends, my family, they recognize the change. I got more energy, and again, I got married, so of course, that's a good thing because you got a lot of energy now. So you're not, and it wasn't that I was low on energy, just my energy has gotten even higher. So for me and for them, I think it was more for me, Pete, not concerned about them. I think we have to take care of ourselves for ourselves, more or less, instead of it being, you know, right? Yeah, I'm gonna be an example for them, but if they don't get it, they don't ask, I'm just telling them what I'm doing and I'm going for it because I need to be better. I need to love Calvin better. Like
Right.
I need to appreciate my health better. I'm looking at things that I let go because I was taking care of so many other people. I was helping everyone. And so in that process, it was me that was being lost.
So that overall experience has really kind of changed your overall outlook.
Yes, yes, yes. And it's worth it. I think, looking at you, like when I saw you the first time I met you, I was like, man, that's a goal to be where you are. For me, that's a goal, right? I want to do that. I want to be more healthy. That's what I'm telling my son. That's why I'm doing it because I want to be 66 looking real good. You know what I mean? Like, so when I put
Yeah.
something on, I want you to say, oh, that man, he about 41. You know what I mean? So that's just the way I want my face and my body to match. I don't want my body to show 80 and my face to show 20.
Yeah, if you want to do that at that age, is you want to still get out and compete and do those things, you can do it. As I mentioned before, at the Senior Olympics, when I was there were people that were 91, 100 still competing. So, and those were people that took care of themselves, and you could see it. So all those things are possible. Calvin, knowing what you know now, what kind of preventative measures do you wish you would have maybe taken?
Um,
Do you
um,
wish you would have taken earlier?
one was alcohol. I really
Okay.
wish alcohol wasn't an issue when I was younger, right? although when you're young, you do things. One of them is alcohol. The other one is just not continuing my working out lifestyle. That's one of my biggest, because I like to run. Although it sounds funny, I like to run. That's why it felt so. I was in a lot
Yeah.
of pain, but it felt so good because what it did was it ignited me, you know. And so, that's a big deal, Pete. To me, that's a big deal to be able to get up, right, and run. And so when that was taken away from me, it was because all the things I was going through. It was the divorce, it was the situation, it was the job, it was you're going back and forth, and then it's all the other stuff that come with tearing yourself down. And it didn't have no tools. Like I just gave them away, right? But in the meantime, I kept helping everybody, but I wasn't taking care of Calvin.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the thing, the purpose for me right now is to take better care of myself and be a better example and share this information like we're doing for Fatherhood Unity Month, to share this information with fathers like you do not have to fall off, right?
Right.
You can take better care of yourself. I share this quick story with you that really blew me away. And you can, when you're a diabetic, you have these food addictions. We may not know it, right? Because we had family outings, and I literally had aunts put sugar in macaroni and cheese, literally.
Oh,
So you go get the macaroni and cheese. Now you're a diabetic, but the people that's going to eat the macaroni and cheese, somehow sugar is in the macaroni and cheese. It's the worst tasting thing in the world, right? Macaroni and cheese in itself is already bad for you. But the fact is now you add sugar to it, right? And you sitting there, that's terrible, right? So you, as a diabetic, you start trying to, when you're addicted to stuff, you start trying places where you place sugar, right, in your foods, right? But it was my mom. My mom said one day, each one of us is on my day. And my mom said to me, she said, like everybody else, go get them, I need 2 double cheeseburgers from White Castle. And I told her no. And you need to get on your shoes. And I started walking her. And I recognized when she started walking and we started walking her and spending that time with her, walking her, she didn't need those pills.
that's right.
Then the other process was, as she was walking and she began to do more walking, right? She didn't need, not only did she not need those pills, but she also started seeing better. And so I was like, okay, so now we understand about this diabetes. Exercise is a key component to fighting diabetes. Now, I do understand that you can be skinny and be a diabetic, but it still comes back to that diet.
Right.
And so I wanted to share that with you because I noticed that how I'm moving further and further away from old habits. Right. And the fact that you call and check on me is just awesome, because when you call, when you shoot a text message, man, I am so grateful when I see it. Like, just today, it's just, the person that's sending you this message is concerned about your health. Right. And that's something we have to do. Anybody in the audience got any questions?
Hey, Kevin, how you doing tonight? And hello, Mr. Rome, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm John Miles. I'm the coordinator at Wayne County Fatherhood Initiative here in Detroit. And really, through some of the things you said, it really brought back to me in regards to my decline from being health conscious. I played sports all the way through college, so I was
Okay.
a regimen.
So
I was
right.
doing the right things. And one of the things, as I was getting older, I made it a conscious effort to say, and remind myself whenever I had kids, I wanted to do the things with my kids that my dad never got a chance to do with me. You know, he never had a chance. I had older parents, so they never participated with me in sports. And I said, I want to be an active participant with my kids. So that worked for a minute. But what I found out through relationships and other things that brought stress, it pulled me away in regards to keeping that regimen up. You know, instead of me being out there being active, now I'm sitting somewhere trying to figure out, okay, something ain't working right. You know, I'm now 56 and I'm recovering basically from that time frame. You know, I'm connecting with a doctor, but really the most important thing I found, not only trying to get myself back in shape, but having that conversation with my son who's grown,
Yes.
my daughter who's grown, like, you know, hey, let your dad be an example in regards to how things can start right and go wrong. And then you have to try to come back to it, you know, keep that activeness. I appreciate in regards to some of the fruits and other things that you mentioned in regards to including your diet. I definitely will be making a trip to the store and, you know, doing that. But yeah, I'm trying to get back to that healthy frame of mind because, you know, as I say, I'm kind of like on that downside of the mountain and I want to go out the right way.
Yeah, we're going to send out some information to Calvin to get out to everyone, just some suggestions and ideas. But I mean, you've got the background, the discipline, you know, you played sports, so you know what it takes. And it's just, I encourage you, just make one lifestyle change, make one simple one, you know, and that's just going to build. You make one, then you make another one. Any other comments and questions, Calvin? Anything else you can think of?
Yes, hold on. I'm looking this. Do you suggest making small goals as a start?
Yeah, something that's you know, measurable and obtainable. You know, small steps. You know, like you talked about, hey, I started walking a little bit, and you know, before I know it, now I'm running a little bit. So it's taking baby steps, but doing something.
Awesome. Well, Pete, I appreciate you. Right. We're going to move right along into our next conversation, but I really appreciate you. You can sign off at your discretion. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Brother Pete, brought to you by Campaign for Black Male Achievement. Thank you for coming on, Pete.
Oh, thanks so much, Calvin. We'll be in touch, and I'll get
we're
some
going to get that
information out.
survey. We're going to get that
Yeah,
survey.
get that survey to the men.
As
I'll
well.
get you some more stuff out there, and I'm going to do some other things and have some docs on, so I'll let you know when that takes place so everybody can join.
Yeah, okay, awesome.
Okay, take care.
Yes, sir.